What's up, Wise Take? Oh, the 3-2. And you get quiet. Oh, you got quiet.
I'm fake.
Yeah. What's up, Wise Take? It's week 6, NFL. Wise Stream preview show. It's the two Guidos. That's right. We're back here again. It's week 6. I'm here with Paulie D. It's Patio Joe. Follow me on Twitter at Patio Joe Ref. And of course, follow Paulie D at 8 Paulie with the 8 Ds. We are part of the Wise Take Nation. We are bringing you the week 6 preview, and we're going to be talking a little football. First off, how you doing, Paulie?
Doing good, man. Doing real good. Big shout out to CK, who smashed last week. Won about $7K on $250 investment. Was real close to doing some real special things. And, a lot of screenshots from the nation. Again, just a good, positive week. And we have a really nice week, I think, brewing here with a couple big games. Looking forward to talking it over with you.
Yeah, it's going to be games that started off this week. We had the Philly going into New York to get a little drive up north to take on the Giants, and Philly looking like the world champs that they are, finally put together. It looks like the Giants have given up going into the second half. What's going on with the Giants, man? I thought they'd have put up a better effort tonight, at least a little bit more points.
Yeah, I mean, we're just not that good. Our offensive line is bad, and that just puts a damper on the whole team. Saquon Barkley doing all he can out there, and we've got weapons, we've got a solid defense, but without the offensive line, we're just constantly giving the ball back to the offense, constantly putting our defense on the field, and against good teams like the Eagles, we're gonna have these kind of results. I said to someone, next year in the draft, if I'm the Giants, it's just all offensive linemen, just a complete revamp, and then move forward. And hopefully we can replace Manning as well. Not that he's totally the problem, but he's part of it because he's not mobile either. And, if we had a guy like Watson or something like that, maybe we could get away with this kind of O-line, but not with Manning.
Yeah, he's like shell-shocked now,
Yep.
And, you try to sign maybe the best O-line they got on free agent market this year, draft some good O-linemen. And, because the talent's there. You got one of the best receivers in the league. You got one of the best running backs in the league. We were saying before, we'd probably put Barkley at number 2 right now if we were redrafting, or maybe for 2019, maybe 3.
Yeah, we forgot Bell. Le'Veon Bell, too.
Yeah, I mean, Le'Veon Bell, though, we'll see where he goes, where he plays next year. There's I still think he's on the downside of his career than going up compared to the other guys. They're just younger and less wear and tear. But we'll see where he goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Totally, his, opportunity changes with different teams. You know what I mean? You put Todd Gurley on the Giants, and he's not as good either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You put Bell on these Eagles and see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a potential landing spot for him. And, they would just be really tough if they got him and he was in good shape and, the Lev Bell of old.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, let's get into this. Before we get into week 6, we got the NLCS starting up tomorrow night. We got the ALCS starting up on Saturday. We got the Dodgers playing the Brewers and the Astros playing the Red Sox. Both the teams in the World Series last year are the number 2 seeds going on the road. They don't have home field advantage. Paulie, real quick, tell us what's your feelings about these 2 series. First off, go with the NL and then go with the AL.
Well, the NL one is definitely more up in the air, in my opinion. Dodgers have more talent, but the Brewers seem to have some solid momentum and, arguably one of the best hitters in the game right now, Christian Yelich. And, even though they don't have a great starting rotation, their bullpen is phenomenal. So that'll be an interesting series. I know you're not going to like this, but I'm rooting for the Brewers just because it's been so long for them, and I like their team. But, I'm rooting for whoever wins this series overall. And Houston, I think, should beat Boston pretty handily. Houston's just loaded with talent, bats and arms, and Boston's really limited to a couple good players, in my opinion. And like with Sale not at the top of his game, it's going to be tough against Houston. I think Houston wins that series like 4-1, 4-2, and Milwaukee Dodgers. I think the Dodgers will end up winning, especially with Kershaw pitching really well. But I think it'll go 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think obviously I'm a Dodger fan. I look at the Brewers. The only place where they have the advantage on the Dodgers is in their bullpen. Their starting pitching, they definitely don't. I mean, they're going to be going with Gio Gonzalez game 1, and then Wade Miley game 2, trying to equalize these lefties. And then game 3, I don't get it. They're putting Chacin at Dodger Stadium. I mean, I think the nation won.
Awesome, though.
But the nation has won money, lots of money on Chacin at Dodger Stadium. We know how he blows up. I wouldn't have pitched him there. I would have pitched him in Milwaukee.
And gone Miley in game 3. I agree.
Yeah.
But,
I think if the Dodgers can get to him early, they're pitching early, they got to score. If they get into their bullpen, the thing that the Dodgers do well is that they have such a deep bench. If they come in with Hader, they're going to come in with Dozier. You know what I'm saying? Or something like they're going to come in with these
PK.
Yeah. So, something like that. I think that it's in the end. I do agree the Dodgers are going to win. I think they're going to win in 6. And then on the other side, I just feel like the Astros have kind of been cruising through the whole season, kind of just playing like winning the division. They had to do it. And then now they've just turned it on. And
Springer's homered in like 6 of his last 7 playoff games or something. Like, guy did nothing all season, and now he's like electric again. And like Altuve, Bregman, like
they're just boom.
Deep.
And then they're pitching.
Is
now
incredible.
They add Cole. It's just to me.
Quietly, they have an extremely good bullpen as well. So it's just like there's no weaknesses on that team. And like I was hoping the Yankees would have beat Boston. And I didn't. Houston was the team I feared the most. You know what I mean? I would have taken Cleveland for sure, but obviously that didn't work out.
Either of those teams that in the American League that win, either of them win, they're going to beat the National League team. I
don't know about that. I really don't know about that.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Those Astros are just so good. I think the Astros are going to win the World Series. Anyways, let's get into this week 6. This week 6 is a little, to me, I don't think it's as tricky as everybody thinks it is. I think it's very straightforward. I think it's more of a cash week in so many ways. I don't know. My first link, I think it's more of a cash week. What do you think, Paulie?
I can agree with that. Like, there's been like 2, maybe 3 weeks where like the cash plays were extremely obvious, and there's a handful of those this week. You know what I mean? And a lot from these games we're going to talk about, but there's just not a ton of depth. Like some weeks there's so many different guys to pick between. Like this week, especially like quarterback and running back, like your player pool is going to be thin. You know what I mean? But I think like for tournaments, there's like some extremely low-owned pivots of very good plays that could make or break the weekend. Like I don't think the cash lineup is going to end up being the optimal tournament winning build.
Yeah. I mean, we were saying earlier that the most contrarian thing on the week to be is just maybe stack a game of the 3 later games, because nobody might want to go to those. You have Jacksonville at Dallas. You have probably 2 teams that might run 30 plays apiece in that game. You're not going to want any of that.
One.
Okay. And then you have Baltimore and Tennessee. That's going to be rain, and Tennessee is a terrible offense, so you might want a piece maybe of a Baltimore offense, and then you got the Rams and the Broncos, which on paper when the week started we're like, hey, this is great, but now we got snow.
Weather,
we're not sure about Kupp, we're not sure about Cooks.
That's going to play. That's going to be a big part of the decision making is those 2 receivers. If they are out, Gurley's going to be a ton more owned. If they're in, Gurley's 10K on DK, and that's a tougher decision with them full strength. But if both those receivers are out, I think he'll be extremely popular again. And with those two guys out, it makes that game definitely closer. And I think Aqib Talib's going to be out as well, making the Rams defense is excellent when they're fully healthy. But I mean, we saw Minnesota go up and down the field on them 2 weeks ago. Like lately, they haven't been as dominant as they can be. So if the Rams are missing two of their better offensive receivers, maybe we do have a closer game there. But Denver's just looked awful. I mean, so bad. They got abused by the Jets, who just did not look good coming into that game. And I don't see Denver even hanging in with even a half strength Rams team.
All right, well, we'll touch on that game a little bit more later on. But let's start off with the game, probably the game of the week. Definitely. When it comes to DFS. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their leaky defense traveling just a little bit north to Atlanta to take on Matt Ryan and their leaky defense, their hurt defense, and the Atlanta Falcons. Paulie, tell me, how much are you going to be in this game? How much you like it? What do you like about it? And, tell me, just hit me.
I mean, what's not to like here? It's in the Dome. It's pretty much the two worst defenses in football right now. Maybe, top four worst, depending if you want to argue maybe the Chiefs or a handful of other teams. But just everything points to a shootout. The Falcons, every time that they've been at home, they've been in a shootout, whether it's a good team or a bad, except for the opening game against Philly. And I think that was just like a little bit of week one rust. But Tampa Bay just got abused by the Bears, who are not really a great offense, and the Falcons just got beat by the Steelers and have been in a shootout pretty much every game. So you're going to want pieces of this game. It's just how much and what is going to be the question. Jameis Winston is looking like the highest owned quarterback on the slate, and your cash game kind of like chalk quarterback. Matt Ryan, I think, is a really nice pivot in tournaments off of Jameis. I think both are phenomenal plays. The Tampa Bay is like a complete pass funnel defense. Like their run defense is actually decent. And then the Falcons have a better run defense than pass, but you can run on them a little bit as well, as we saw James Conner last week. But ultimately, I just expect this game to be a shootout, a lot of passing, both quarterbacks going over 40 pass attempts, a lot of the clock stopping, a lot of points. The new NFL, like this game will probably go way over 57 or whatever the total is. Like we'll probably see 70 plus total points in this game. And I mean, Julio Jones has, I think, like 40 career touchdowns, and 11 of them are against Tampa. A quarter of his touchdowns are against Tampa. Everyone knows that's been his biggest issue, is getting in the end zone. This has got to be the week that he finally breaks out and, on top of the yards and receptions, gets a touchdown or two. He's right now probably the guy that I'm going to have the most exposure to and possibly 100% ownership of. And then on Tampa, I'm going to have some of these receivers. Right now, I'm leaning Mike Evans and, minimum, like at highest exposure, and then probably like 20% of Godwin and Jackson. And then we got to take a look at Mohamed Sanu. He's questionable. If he's in, I like him at 4,800 on DK. If he's out, that gives a bump to Calvin Ridley and maybe even the running backs, especially Freeman, who's kind of their passing down back. So I think you definitely could play Ryan. I like Freeman and Julio and one other receiver. And then on the Tampa side, it's really like Evans and then either one of the other two receivers. Even Adam Humphries at 3-2 is in play as well. And then I think you could play Cameron Brate. I'm not really interested in Hooper. I think he's going to be extremely popular. He had a massive target game last week. I don't think that continues. And, if O.J. Howard plays, it doesn't look like he's going to. I'd be interested in him. But with him out, I think Cameron Brate is fine as well. So you're definitely going to want plays in this game. I think if you're building 5 lineups, one of them should be just like a full-on game stack. And then in the other 4, having like 2 to 3 pieces of this game. Because it's like clearly a standout from the rest of the games on the slate. And just like, looking back at past games, they're always high scoring in Atlanta. I just don't see how this game doesn't put up a ton of points.
Yeah, Jameis is from Atlanta, so he always likes playing against them. It's funny, in the beginning of the week, it's funny you're saying that Jameis is the highest owned quarterback and he is your cash game quarterback. And we're supposed to be taught that cash game is supposed to be safe. Guy hasn't started one game this year. We're starting him as our cash game quarterback. But I understand.
To that point,
thought.
He had an awesome end of the season last year. They actually beat the Saints in a game the Saints needed to win, and he was awesome in the preseason. Like, I know he hasn't played. There may be some rust. He's definitely going to throw a pick or two in this game, but, I mean, he should throw for 300 plus and a couple touchdowns. It's just, but I agree, though. It's like, initially I was like, I like Jameis for tournaments and like
cash.
Oh yeah, pretty or another cheaper quarterback for cash. But like now that I've tuned into the rest of the industry, I mean it's just like clearly Jameis Winston is going to be the highest owned quarterback in cash game quarterback this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's the deal for what I'm looking at on FanDuel is I agree with you, Jameis. He's 7,400 on FanDuel. Here's the thing with when it comes to Julio on cash games for FanDuel and why I'm off Julio for cash games. One, Adam Thielen's the same price. You want to talk about safe? I'll take the guy that's got 100 yards every single week with a touchdown. Not going to be having Patrick Peterson on him. That's why I'm taking Thielen at that price. I'll play Julio all day on GPPs. It just, to me, I feel like that's just the way I look at it. You know what I mean? When it comes to I'm going to just stick with the safer option when it comes to cash games. You can get a piece of that game in other ways too. You know what I mean?
Hold on. What if Sanu's out? Does that change that at all?
It does, but my thing is I actually kind of like Calvin Ridley a little bit more. He's going to be having Brent Grimes on him. Brent Grimes is like 10 years, 12 years older than Calvin Ridley. Mm-hmm. Calvin Ridley's going to be like, here, I'm going to hold you. Here's my towel while I run right by you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like him and I like Sanu just better just for the price if he plays for cash more than Julio, because I think you can get Thielen at the same price and then have Sanu at a lower price and still get a piece of that game. Cameron Brate is the free square on FanDuel. He's 4,500. He's min price. The thing is like, remember what I said last week when everybody was on Vance McDonald? I said, wait a minute, though. The Falcons have they're going to win tight end. So everybody's on Brate, and I get it on a price point, and I get it on a cash game. You're kind of like going with the herd, take the free square, even if he gets a 5, whatever. But on GPPs, I don't think he's got enough to win the slate to win it.
Me neither. I completely agree with that. He's like very touchdown dependent. And like, there's just too many other weapons on that team, and now it's the same scenario for Vance McDonald. Like, game script kind of hurt him. Like the Steelers got up early and like they didn't need to pass as much. So like that, took him out. Plus they've got so many good options, and you've got a similar situation here. Like if Brate doesn't get the touchdown, he's not the top tight end on the slate. And even if he does, I think there's better tight ends on the slate. So like he's fine because he's so cheap on both sites, but so is every other tight end. And, I doubt I have a ton of Brate.
Tight end is a wasteland this year. When Eric Ebron is the highest price
crazy
tight end, something's wrong. There's other tight ends, we'll get into that we can talk about that I think are interesting. We'll see if they're going to play. There's a couple that are questionable. But also, we'll get back to this game. Matt Ryan, I think when the week started out, I was like cash game right there. Just he's going to throw it. It's like, but like price point now, I feel like it's just gonna. I'm probably will switch down to Evans just because I'll save $900. So I kind of want to get Gurley in the lineup. I'm kind of feeling Gurley in cash.
Yeah, in cash on FanDuel, you can definitely go get Gurley
because it's 9,500, but it's tough. I get it. I feel we have a question in the chat. Is Ridley Jackson a good contrarian stack? Deshaun Jackson's always good for, you just hope he gets a bomb and he'd be good. I like, also, here's another thing. Devonta Freeman is pretty much. I think he's out. I think he's doubtful. They say they're not worried about it. They think it's a 1 week injury on his foot. It's like basically a bone contusion. If he's out, that makes Tevin Coleman like cash game like almost. He's 6,300 on FanDuel. So we're looking for value on FanDuel to fit in with Gurley. There's another guy at 6,200 on FanDuel that's almost a lock for me. That we'll talk about on our top three. But I just feel like Coleman will get a lot of steam heading in late as the week goes on, getting into Sunday if Freeman is out, because it's going to be him and Ito Smith. And I realize Coleman hasn't done much, but volume is king in this game. In cash games, you might want that if you're trying to get in Mr. Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this game it's got to shoot out. You got to have a little bit of piece of it anywhere. You can always. Thing is like Sanu is cheap enough to where you can always just fit him in at the end.
Yep.
FanDuel just throw him 5,600. Sanu is cheap, or Brait again. Brait, or there's this one team I made up. I have this game stack of that. I had Brait and Hooper. Don't forget about Hooper. He's coming off a good game, but he's also coming off. He's good. He has a great matchup too. So it's all relative. I think it's hard to do a whole game stack thinking they're all going to eat like that enough to win.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have the right pieces, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you're game stacking, I think obviously it's one of the quarterbacks, and you could do up to 3 receivers from the game and a tight end. So that would be 5 total players from this game. I think that is viable. More than that's probably overkill, and you could do 4 as well. But if you really truly want to stack this game up, and if the game truly does shoot out the way it can, like we saw games last year, like specifically, I remember a Houston-Seattle game where like a complete game stack won the Millie Maker. 3 receivers from the game, a quarterback. It was actually 4 receivers from that game and a quarterback. Like, if the game goes off the way it should and the rest of the games don't, like that could definitely win you the slate. So you can do it. I'd say up to 5 players from the game on one team.
All right. Here's a thing. What do you think about Bilal Powell this week if Isaiah Crowell is out? This is from the chat.
Even if he's not out, I don't mind Bilal Powell in GPPs only. Like, he got more snaps. He's getting more touches overall, especially on DraftKings. Like, Crowell's not getting any pass work, so he's eliminated for me on DraftKings. And, I think that you can take a look at Powell, but I have a running back that's just far and away for me that is just doubtful I get any Powell.
All right. Let's get to the next game. We got it's another divisional matchup. We got Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling just a little bit south to take on Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals. We had probably the second highest total of the week, I would guess. And I think that we're in for another high-scoring affair. Hopefully, Andy Dalton brings his good game. What do you got, Paulie?
It is the second highest game on the weekend. So Ben Roethlisberger on the road, he has one good game in Cincinnati, and that is in 2014. All the others just not going to cut it. And, it's so crazy how solid that trend has been for so long. I'm just not going to go against it. I think these two teams have better defenses than that, Tampa-Atlanta game. Big Ben and Juju are probably like a nice 2-man if you wanted to play Ben. The Bengals do have a star cornerback. His name is
Drake Kirkpatrick,
Jackson.
Right?
What? No.
Kirkpatrick? No.
His name's William Jackson III. He'll probably shadow Antonio Brown. I don't think that means you shouldn't play Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is matchup proof. But I do think this is more of a Juju week than AB, and he's cheaper. I think you can go back to Vance McDonald this week against the Bengals. Very, very cheap. And I expect this game to, like, at least put up around what the total is. I don't know if it'll go crazy far, but the division game, they seem to always have decently high scoring games against each other. There's no weather or anything like that. Cincinnati's been playing really well on offense, but I really don't want either of these quarterbacks. On DK, Andy Dalton's now 6'3". That's just too expensive. Don't mind Connor. He's going to get the volume. If they're from behind, he'll probably get work in the pass game. I don't mind Joe Mixon. Even on a week where they said they were going to try and take it easy on him, he got 22 carries and targets in the pass game, and he's the only option they got. They obviously don't trust Mark Walton, so I don't mind Mixon. And then with the receivers, I think you go back to Tyler Boyd on the Cincinnati side. A.J. Green, a little expensive, but viable. But, right now, if I had, there's other receivers I'm looking to pay up for on the slate. So I'm just having that in mind. It's doubtful that I'm going to play A.J. Green over a Julio or Antonio Brown over Julio. So it'd probably be the cheaper guys like Tyler Boyd or Juju Schuster. Already talked about Vance McDonald. No interest in the Cincinnati tight end situation. So it's really, one or two pieces from this game, more than likely. One of the middle price receivers, either Juju or Boyd. And I don't mind the running backs, but I'm not sure if they would get in on my core team. Do you think one of these running backs is going to be popular in cash?
Well, I built a couple lineups, and right now my cash build has Joe Mixon. In the cash lineup.
What's his price on FanDuel compared to
70? He's 7,500, and Connor is 82.
Okay, all right.
So I mean, I like it just because, like you said, where it's going, and like in that lineup right now, I have Mixon and Juju in it.
Yep.
as so I feel like the cash is pretty safe. I might flip it around, trying to get Gurley in it and stuff like that. I might have to, just because it's kind of tough to do it all. But right now that's what I have. So so I think Mixon will be popular because I look at running back this weekend and there's just not that many that really stand out. I don't.
And on DK, if you're I'm not paying $10K for Gurley, then the pool is real thin.
Because he's got to get at least 30 for him to make value.
Got to get 40, really. Yeah. You know what I mean? When you think about point per dollar, so on DraftKings, Zeke is 7K in a perceived tough matchup against Jacksonville, right? So he needs 21 to Gurley's 30 for them to be the same point per dollar. But if those were the end results, you're also getting $3,000 more on the rest of your team. So Zeke is that much more valuable. Even if Gurley goes for 35 and Zeke goes for 21, I still think the Zeke teams win out because you're getting that much better other players on your team. So it's just really hard to go up to Gurley, in my opinion. But if both receivers are out, it's going to be hard not to play him, considering how bad Denver's been against running backs and how much volume he should get if both Kupp and Cook are out.
What about Mel Gordon this week? I haven't heard a lot of people talk about him. I don't know why.
He's absolutely fine. You're kind of choosing on DraftKings if you're paying up between Christian McCaffrey, Melvin Gordon, and Todd Gurley. Melvin Gordon and McCaffrey are in the 8K, lower 8K range. Definitely like Gordon. I mean, he's, gets so much volume and so much high upside volume, in the red zone. He's getting a ton of targets. Austin Eckler is a little annoying when you do play him, but you got to think what kind of game flow is that going to be? I do think that the Chargers win this game, and I think they play from ahead. And I'd prefer to get Gordon in a game when they're coming from behind, but it is possible that they're playing from behind. I just don't think they will.
Here's what I don't know if anybody's really said this, but I just think that the Chargers, I very rarely pump my team the way I feel like they're going to win easily, but I feel like they're going to win this game easily, and for one reason only, and I could be completely wrong, but I would love to see a team that's going to play great coming off of 2 straight weeks where they've played 5 quarters. The Browns are coming off 2 weeks in a row where you've had to play 2 overtime games going to the limit,
Yeah.
And now you're going to come a team with a pretty good offense coming in where they know that 2 years ago, you guys were the only team that beat them, that was their only victory was against these Chargers. I just feel like the Chargers are going to go out there and lay business because they got to go to London next. They're going to go straight to London after the game to play Tennessee next week. The defense played well last week. I just don't see. I feel like the Browns are just going to be tired more than anything.
No, and that's a really good point. Like betting trends so far, and we've had a bunch of overtime games. The team that played in overtime has not covered the spread like 80% so far. So that's definitely a factor.
Yeah. So, but anyways, let's go to the next game. We kind of touched on it a little bit just because we feel like it's the only game where if you want to get contrarian and you can play almost the chalkiest plays in the morning, maybe 2 of them, and then have like all the rest of the night of the afternoon games and just hope that maybe those games don't live up to expectations. I think the Steelers-Bengals could go under. It's a division game. It could always go under and bust out to the point where it's like, oh, I'm glad I didn't have much of that. And then, but it's hard to get around the Tampa-Atlanta game. You just can't see around that. Yep. Is there any other game where you're like, wow, like maybe Seattle, Oakland, in London?
I mean, we've seen crazy games in London. I definitely has the potential. Buffalo, Houston, I think has the potential to have a lot of like DFS goodness in it if Buffalo can, hang in a little bit. And Houston's defense has been pretty bad, and Buffalo seems to be playing a little bit better. So that game, and then maybe the Colts-Jets game could take off. Decent defenses, but also efficient offenses with some big playmakers. And I mean, we've just seen in the league that offensive and scoring is so way up that a few of these games are gonna exceed expectations in terms of the total. But to maybe that San Diego Cleveland game could too, depending on the conditions. I mean, they're decent defenses, but they haven't really played like it. Cleveland gave up I don't know how many total yards to the Raiders, a mediocre team. So that game could go off as well. There's a couple, but it's an odd week where we have the 3 games above 50, and then everything else is below 45 essentially. You know what I mean?
All right, guys, it's time for a little bit where I'm going to just kind of pick out a couple guys each position, put out their price, and see what Mr. Paulie D thinks of them. Maybe they're underpriced. Maybe you might want a little bit of them. And then we're going to do our top 3 at each position, and then we're going to get on out of here. There's a couple questions. Thoughts on Kiki Kuti on Sunday? I said there's no real need for him, and I think Will Fuller's going to play, and he has the best matchup you'd want to exploit because Tre'Davious White is going to be on Hopkins. So I don't think you need Kuti.
On FanDuel, I agree with that. On DraftKings, he's 4'6", super talented. As soon as he recovered from injury, he's gotten massive targets, put up big points both games. He's definitely viable on DK. And if Fuller doesn't play, he's almost like a lock candidate.
Okay. All right, let's go to the quarterback position. Does not mean obviously we talked about Jameis earlier. So Kirk Cousins, 7,900.
Kirk Cousins, 7,900. He is not even sure what he is on DraftKings, but I think he's in the high 6s. Not really that interested. We got to see the situation there with the running back, if Cook is available or not. But I just kind of expect this to, first of all, Arizona is one of the slowest teams out there. And Minnesota is not that fast-paced, especially when they have a lead. So less plays, and I just don't see Arizona pushing Minnesota to have to, have one of their, ceiling offensive games where Cousins throws for 400, et cetera. Most of Arizona's games have been very, very low scoring. So I don't think I'll end up on Cousins at that price. I'd go to Matt Ryan every time.
All right. One other quarterback, I know he's better value on DK, but on FanDuel he's still pretty damn cheap. Russell Wilson.
What's his price on FanDuel?
7,600 on FanDuel.
76. Compared to
I think he's pretty cheap on DK.
What's Jameis on FanDuel?
Jameis is 74.
74. Okay. So Russ is 5'7" on DK, putting him, essentially the same price as Jameis. He, played his first pretty decent game last week against the Rams. I think you can play him. I'm just super concerned that he's not running at all. So, he's going to have to throw for 303 TDs. And, Seattle has just committed to the run game. And Oakland isn't really great at stopping the run. So, you're going to – if you do play Russ Wilson, I think you want it in a stack where you're essentially – predicting like a shootout type game, because if Oakland doesn't do any scoring, Russ isn't going to need to. So if you play Russ, it's like with Amari Cooper or one of the other receivers on the Raiders, and then you pair Russ with either Lockett or Baldwin. But because it's overseas, that anything can happen. I mean, we've seen Blake Bortles throw for 400 and change in a game predicted to be defensive a few years back. You never know, but it's hard to pick Russ over Jameis, hard to pick Russ over, Goff, who's only 300 more, Cam Newton, who's 400 more, what's his name, Watson, who's 700 more. So it's a little bit of a tougher discussion, but now that he hasn't run at all, it's just and how much that they are running as a team, it's hard to go there.
All right. Let's move on to the running back position. FanDuel, 6,200 to me. I feel like this is one of my cash game locks this week. Tell me if I'm crazy. Jordan Howard.
You are crazy. That's really funny because my absolute favorite play on this entire slate
Tariq Cohen, right?
is Tariq Cohen. DraftKings only, but I've put a lot of time into this. I've watched every single play of the last 3 Bears game. I watched the Dolphins' last 2 games. The Dolphins have been getting beat up by running backs, right? And yeah, Sony Michel did beat them on the ground, but James White had a much bigger game. Bilal Powell had 6 and 74 and a touchdown in a game where the Jets pretty much got shut down. The Dolphins have decent secondary and cover guys, and the running back is what beats them. Nagy is, one of those offensive geniuses who, when he was with the Chiefs, when he got to call the plays, threw to Hunt a ton more, threw to a handful of other guys, runs a lot of screens, just very, very intricate offense. And he's got a pretty solid group on offense that protects the ball. Cohen got 30 snaps last week and touched the ball 21 times, or was targeted 21, touched it 20. That's an extreme efficiency.
I remember they were playing Tampa.
I know they were playing Tampa.
Terrible. Okay.
But, even the plays when he doesn't touch the ball, it wasn't in blowout time. He was lined out wide. He's lined up in the slot. He's in the backfield. I think he's looking at this guy as sort of his Tyreek Hill, and the NFL, it's a copycat league. They're trying to use him as an Alvin Kamara, as a James White. And I think that he's going to take away from Jordan Howard. I think on DK at 4.6, his floor is 5 catches for 50 yards. He's averaging 13.9 yards per reception, right? So 5 catches is essentially 70 yards, right? That's 12 DK points. He got 13 carries last week. I forget how many yards he ran for, but he's averaging 5 yards a carry. So say he gets 5 carries for 25, that's 15 points already. That's his floor, in my opinion. And I've just been so impressed. He also returns punts, so you have that slim out that maybe he takes one in the house. He's 4th best in punt returns this year in all of the NFL. And I just think that this coach is going to scheme for him and try to get him the ball enough and he's so talented. And the matchup where the Dolphins have struggled. Joe Mixon caught a touchdown last week. Like, it's just an amazing situation. I would play him on FanDuel as well, but it's not as strong of a play on FanDuel because of the less PPR. But I won't have any Jordan Howard. I think that, I mean, he out-touched him last week by a lot, Cohen, but I think he's going to out-carry and touch him this week.
Well, I mean, I also heard, though, Nagy saying that anybody, you shouldn't read into what happened in that game because it was totally just went off the screws because of what happened. I mean, it was just like
went out. All that production happened in like the first 2 quarters. He pretty much didn't play the second half. Like,
I mean, I think that Howard's due for a bounce back. They're going to give him the ball. That's the thing. That's what I think. And it's just maybe it's a dead play or whatever.
Against the run up, the non-receiving running backs. I know Michelle had a good game, but other than that, they've been good against it.
Didn't Marshawn Lynch run pretty good against them in week 2?
Pretty
sure.
I don't think he ran really that well in terms of like yards per carry, but I do think he got the volume. Let me pull that up. Marshawn Lynch. Raiders are on this slate.
19 for 64 and a touchdown. 4
yeah, like 19 for 64. That's like 3.3 yards a carry. That's really not that great. And how many carries did Jordan Howard get last week?
11 carries.
In a game where they're winning, like game script said he should have got a ton more. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's falling out of a part of that offense that's not the way he plays.
He's going to be involved in that offense if they ever get ahead and they need to run the clock out.
They got ahead last week.
They were ahead by a lot, though. I mean, they didn't need. If you're ahead by like 10 points, you need to run the clock.
They did bring in Benny Cunningham in the 4th, and he got.
You know what I mean? So it's fine.
We'll see. I really think that
I want to read
losing
what
too
other
much.
People are going to say too. I've been hearing too much from other people in the industry, see what they say too. So we'll see as the week goes on. Let's see, running back. If there's any more running backs. What about Chris Carson at 6,400? You just were talking about.
So he's 44 on DK. People are talking about using him in cash. I'm nervous about Mike Davis. Number one, like, he's done well since coming there. It's not like just Carson's job back there. I'm nervous.
You don't know what Pete Carroll's going to do.
Yeah, you never do. You know what I mean? I really just don't think Carson's that good. So I don't think I'd go there. If what's his name? Dalvin Cook gets ruled out, then I think Latavius Murray is an amazing cash play on both sides.
All right, I could see that. I don't know if people are going to want to step on that grenade again, because remember a couple weeks ago against Buffalo, he was, and he just totally busted out.
Like, lost. Like, they were down 27 or whatever. Like, it was a crazy, weird game.
I'm getting though, like, I'm starting to understand though, if Crowell is out, I think Powell makes for a good play on FanDuel also, because not only is he going to get all the carries, but I think Indy is like the second worst team running backs out of the backfield next to Atlanta. I mean, look what James White did last week against Indy.
Yeah, I don't think they're the second worst, but they're probably they're top 10 worst.
They're right around there. They've got to be that. I mean,
I totally if Crowell's out, totally fine with Powell. He's had big games in the past. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you got to think, who else is running that? Who else would be running the ball if it not for Powell?
They do have another guy that they used last year. I can't think of his name, but he won't be enough of a factor.
Now, and let me guess, if GBP, not even GBPs, I guess so. Yeah, GBPs. We're talking about running backs again. Atlanta's terrible with running backs out of the backfield. Are you willing to throw a freaking Peyton Barber or Ronald Jones in the lineup?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, I don't not either. I don't feel
Ronald Jones can't catch is the word on the street. And The Bucks just don't throw to their backs out. You know what I mean? Like, I think they would use Humphreys as like a low A dot, screen game short pass more than one of those running backs.
All right, let's move to receiver. I'm going to move down receiver. 6,600 on FanDuel, Tyler Lockett. I really like him. What do you think?
Definitely a good play.
He's been really
one of those home run in a bottle type guys with the touchdown upside in one play. If they do fall behind, he's going to get a ton of targets. We saw last week, Baldwin had one catch, and Lockett had the touchdown in the bigger game. Like, definitely interested. But there's a handful of mid-price receivers that I have interest in.
Here's another one on 5,700 on FanDuel. I think he's almost a lock, especially because T.Y. Hilton's out. Chester Rogers. His matchup in the slot is going to against Buster Screen, he's god-awful.
Which is awesome, yeah.
And I just feel like he's just going to get like tons of targets. And if you want to fit in Gurley up top, you're going to have to go down below. And he also makes for even a decent pivot off of Sanu in like a tournament because he's around the same price as Sanu too. So what do you think of him?
Obviously, that's only if T.Y.'s out. And then I haven't gone that far in my research. Are you sure that he runs out of the slot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't mind it, especially more on DK, but I think I would go to Kute before him. I think I would go to just a handful of receivers before him, but he's definitely viable as well.
He's going to be way overlooked, and he's going to get tons of targets. Ebron might not even play this week. I mean, there's nobody there at this point. It's like, it's crazy. So, there was somebody else I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, there might not be Paul Richardson or Josh Doxson or Jamison Crowder in Washington right now. Like, so somebody's gonna. Does that mean it's a Jordan Reed week? Does that mean it's a Chris Thompson week? Chris Thompson's questionable.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously got to get clarity on who's in, who's out. Are they on the main slate?
Oh, yes, they are.
They are. They play Carolina. I honestly don't even know who. I guess they got the guy Harris, who would come into play if all three of these receivers were out. Like, do you know how likely or not they all have Q tags?
I think
and Doxson.
I think if I had to guess, like, I think Richardson's going to be out. I think Crowder's going to play. I think Thompson might be out. That's just but that's just my gut. But if I had to bet on one to play, I'd say Crowder's going to play, and then Thompson, and then Richardson is probably the least likely.
So, obviously it depends who's available, who's not. But Jordan Reed is definitely, like, probably has the highest ceiling of all the tight ends in play this week. Did nothing against the Saints, but before that, he had 7, 8, 5 targets. We know Alex Smith likes to check down the tight ends. If there's multiple inactives out of those receivers, I think you got to take a long look at him. And then, depending on Chris Thompson's health as well, like it's just too unclear right now to really say. You know what I mean? But whoever's the last man standing, I think, is where you go.
Mm-hmm. All right. This guy, let's go to the tight end position.
Okay.
All right. Which is just a wasteland. I mean, it's just a wasteland. I'm putting out two guys that are just, they're gross. But first guy is Charles Clay. Houston can't stop anybody in tight end. It's this week maybe he goes off.
Man, what's his price? He's $2,700 on DK. That's essentially free.
Yeah, he's 4,600 on FanDuel, so he's almost free.
I don't think I would go there, but I really couldn't argue off it. And who was the other one?
The other one is Nick Vannett.
I like Nick Vannett if he's healthy. He's questionable.
Mm-hmm.
But
I just like he had like 25% target share last week, and he was on the field for like almost every play because they don't have any other tight end.
yeah,
So.
and I mean they drafted him to be, like a star tight end. It's why they got rid of Jimmy Graham. Like I definitely like him. He's 2,900 as well. Just Q tag thing. We got to see where he's at.
All right, let's go to our top threes. We'll get to our defense top threes in that. We'll obviously pick out whatever they think is underpriced. Top three quarterbacks. Paulie D, what you got?
I'm gonna say Goff. I'm gonna say Ryan, and I'm gonna say Winston.
I'm going with Ryan. I'm going with Winston. And I'm going to go with Andy Dalton as number 3. I feel like they're going to be pumped up at home, and he's going to get 3 or 4 touchdowns.
All right.
I don't know if Ben will put up that much too, but that's what I think. Okay, running backs. What you got?
So, this is in terms of point per dollar, because I mean, obviously, like raw points, it's silly, but I'm just not recommending him. Mm-hmm. I love Tariq Cohen. I have a lot of interest in Marshawn Lynch in a revenge game against Seattle. And I'll go Melvin Gordon.
All right. I'm going to go with, Gurley. I'm up at the top. He's got to go with number 1. Number 2, Joe Mixon. And number 3, but man, there's nobody. It's just like a wasteland. I mean, Melvin Gordon is probably like he's going to be involved. The thing about Melvin Gordon, he's game script agnostic. He's pretty much in there most of the time. Wide receivers. What do you got?
I mean, Julio for sure. He's look at his game logs in Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. Like I said, a quarter of his career touchdowns is against his team. He still leads NFL in air yards, like expected points per reception. I'm going there. I'll go with Jarvis Landry, and I will go with Mike Evans.
All right. I'm going to go with Julio Jones, Adam Thielen, and Juju. Tight ends. This will be interesting.
Yeah. So, if Eric Ebron plays, I'm definitely going to go there. I think that Jared Cook is a really good play, and Jordan Reed.
Basically guys up top. For me, I'm going to go with Austin Hooper. Cash game, I think on FanDuel, you just have to go with Cameron Brate. I think you fade Cameron Brate on GPPs. I'm fading him. I just don't see it. Just because that's the one thing Atlanta's done well is against the tight end. So if he goes off for 2 touchdowns in the GPP, I'll be cool with that. Cash games, I understand it. Jordan Reed, I think he is a great GPP play. And then last, I'm going to say Nick Vannett if he plays. I really like him. I just like his involvement in the offense and everything. Defense. This will be interesting too.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you just continue to play some Chicago D. They just have such a high floor with all the sacks and likely INTs that they can produce. I think Minnesota really impressed on defense last week and seemed to be coming together against a rookie quarterback in Arizona. Makes a lot of sense. And I think I will take a shot on Where's my other rookie matchup?
Houston?
Houston, yeah. Houston against Buffalo. Like, I think the Houston defense is better than they've shown. This could be a decent opportunity to finally show up. I mean, J.J. Watt, like, we could be in for one of his just, 3 sacks, strip fumble plus touchdown kind of games or something like that. I just, a rookie quarterback on the road is just a very tough thing to ask against a good pass rush.
Yeah. I think that the Bears, obviously, I like the Vikings probably as my number one defense. I just think that I just can't see them doing that twice at home. Like falling down like that twice at home. I feel like they're not going to let it happen. There's no way.
And I mean, they gave Wentz a ton of trouble. They were, I forget how many times he got sacked, but they did pretty well against a tough opponent. This should be much easier.
Chicago, obviously, I like it. And I think that Houston, obviously, there's another option. I said Baltimore. I said Tennessee has not scored on anybody really, and I think that Baltimore could put up a good fight and get some points. They can get some turnovers, some sacks. And then if I had to go below, way down, I don't really think you need to, especially on FanDuel. I know you think that this defense isn't that, but Miami at home. It's still Trubisky. I think they could rattle him. Miami plays decent at home. They're 3,500. I don't think I'm going to. I'm just trying to give somebody that I would think is decent down below. I think that if you look at just the teams that like what could happen, Trubisky he's very inconsistent. You could be wrong on the Tariq Cohen call. And if you look at last week's game, they lost that game because of 2 defensive touchdowns that Cincinnati scored. So their defense held Cincinnati on the road. Now they're coming back home. They usually play better at home.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Like Tariq Cohen could have a monster game and the Miami defense do well. Like
that's true.
They do outside of the Patriots game, they get to the quarterback, multiple sacks, they've had multiple interceptions every game. Like, I'm fine with that. And like defense is so variant, you know what I mean? Like you add the kick return and punt returns, block field goals that turn into touchdowns. Like, you could have a defense, on a team that you also have offensive players, and they both do well for you. So,
are you doing the Bears defense with Cohen? Is that what you're doing with your Cohen teams? Or
I mean, I'm gonna have Cohen on like 80% of teams, maybe 100, and I'll have the Bears defense on like 25%. So he'll end up pairing a few times, and like it does make sense. I mean, outside of the running back defense correlation, Cohen does return punts, and he's 4th in return yards and like 2nd in average per return. Like maybe he takes one in the house, you get that double dip, which is amazing. So it definitely makes sense to try a little bit.
All right. Anything else to say, Paulie? We got any promos? Anything we got doing? I mean, basketball starting
NBA,
up. I mean,
Tuesday's the beginning of the regular season. Tomorrow's the last preseason NBA slate. We are running a promo. We're giving out the NBA cheat sheets for free. So anyone that's not a member will be able to access them on our site. Try them out. If you like it, maybe you'll give us a shot in the regular season. And last couple days to get the NBA season pass at the discount. Normal price like $174.99. It's down to $149. Jump on that if you plan on getting the season pass. And we had our new hockey writers. One of them hit for 10 or 15 grand the other day on a $16 investment. And there's been a lot of buzz around the hockey Slack chat. Guys are playing it that don't know anything about it, including myself, and cashing. Try out the hockey. It's 99 cents for a day pass to get access to their content. These guys actually know their stuff really well. They've been really impressive. And it doesn't hurt when you go out and pop for 10 or 15K on $16 to show that you know what you're doing.
No, it does not. I'll tell you what, guys. Those other sports, basketball and hockey, They get you through the cold months, until baseball comes. If you're just a baseball or football guy, and I'll tell you what, you got some great knowledge with Paulie and Cash and basketball. Man, they go head first into those things, and they got those cheat sheets every single day. They come out, and depending on if the slate's real small, you might not have one, but mostly almost every day.
5 games or more for the cheat sheet. But we'll have a live stream every time there's a slate. We'll have a cash game article, GPP article, and the Slack chat is just,
24/7 Slack chat.
I get like 2,000 notifications a day between Slack chat, email, and text now. It's just nonstop.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right, guys. Listen, that's going to do it for the Week 6 preview here for Wise Take. Don't forget to join us on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, for the Week 6 Wise stream featuring Paulie D and Cash and DFS, also Bros Bear. And I'm hoping there's just 1 week out of 16 that I can join you guys on that. I really, really want to.
Anytime, man. The invitation is
I know. It's just tough to get those twins out of the house or sleep for an hour and a half like we're doing. We do it now, I can do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyways, I hope that our man in the back, Steve, is listening, because we are ready to get out of here. So, guys, for Week 6, remember, like I said, I think it's more of a cash week. Don't go so hard. It's just kind of a weird slate. The afternoon games are kind of So we got the weather games. So just kind of go a little cash, a little small, and let's win. Hey, not every week's got to be a full-on week. You know what I mean? Anything else, Paul? You got to end?
No, man, that's it. We're good.
That's it. All right, guys. For Paulie D, I am Patio Joe. And like our man, the Godfather CK, always says, good luck.
Peace.
Yes.